Have you ever wondered how data is stored in memory? Sure, it is a bunch of zeros and ones, but how exactly is it stored? What type of information is stored too? This is a very short tutorial about a very simplified explanation of data types. For most engineer it will do until you actually have to write efficient software. Now for computer science majors, I strongly encourage you to read the additional link posted on the website. Now, why are data types important? Well, think about why different devices are of different sizes. Of course, most devices shown here have a different purpose. I wouldn't write a report using my cell phone. But besides that purpose aspect, there is also the memory aspect behind it. And that's why they're of different sizes. Everything that you see here has software installed. But how big a software is depends partly in how many variables we have, and more important, what type of information is inside that variable. By talking about data types, we mean a mean of controlling how much memory is used per variable. Now imagine the memory again as a long sequence of zeros and ones, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this one. A single zero or a single one is called a bit. Bit stands for binary digit. Now most systems have agreed to define a group of 8 bits as 1 byte. And most of the documents in folders these days are in kilobytes or megabytes or even sometimes gigabytes. So it's a very common unit. One little 0 or 1 is called a bit. 8 bits is called a byte. And then combine them and you get 2 bytes, 3 bytes, 4 bytes, and so on. Now the number of bytes a software uses depends greatly on the number of variable it uses. More specifically, the type of information stored in that variable. For example, a letter and a number won't take the same amount of bytes. Among the few data types available that you see here, there are two primary ones that I'm going to focus on because they are the default, meaning MATLAB defaults to these data types and knows how much memory to save depending on those. For numbers, it is called a double. And for text data, so letters, it is referred to as char. Now the other data types are there if the programmer wants to be more memory efficient. Keep in mind a while back when rockets started being built, we didn't have much room on the rocket and we didn't want to put extra memory that we wouldn't use. Sure, there was a software, but the memory that came or that was built with it was exactly what that software needed. There wasn't room for extra. Extra memory needs extra components. Extra component means extra weight, extra fuel, extra money. So it was very important to keep it to the minimum. So there was, if you want, a race for having a software that was very memory efficient. And in that case, the programmer has to understand the different data types shown here, more than just the default. Now, today, let's stick to the default, and I'm going to jump to MATLAB to play and experiment with the data type. I've gone ahead and closed the current folder as well as the history. I'm just going to experiment with data types, so I have the command window open and the workspace. Now in the workspace, I've gone ahead and clicked write to show the name of the variable, value, the bytes, how much memory does it use, as well as what default class it chooses. Now by default again, numerical data types, so numbers, are called double. Look in the workspace, I can see double, and it takes 8 bytes, meaning 64 zeros and 1, just to store one number. It doesn't matter if I have decimals. It's still a double, and it still takes 8 bytes. Now, those are numbers, and that's as simple as it gets. For letters, for example, if I want to store my middle initial, suppose it's K. I can't just type K like that. This would be similar to me trying to do an equation. MATLAB would look for a variable K, C, or D and try to store the value on the left side of the equal sign. So letters are a bit different. Absolutely put single quotes around it and the color becomes purple. In the workspace, it becomes a char. It is stored as a char in memory and it takes 2 bytes. 2 bytes because there is only one letter. If I choose to do 3 letters, for example a full name Joe, it will take 6 bytes because 2 times 3 letters is 6. So it takes more and more zeros and ones if you have a longer name. So that's quick about letters and sentences. And just as a side note, most passwords today actually have both. They have letters, they have numbers, they have special characters. So what does MATLAB do? Does MATLAB see it as a double or as a char? MATLAB sees it as a char, specifically because we put the quotes around it, but because that's the default. Passwords are a bunch of letters. Whether the letter looks like a number 4 makes no difference. So in this example, I typed 6 letters total. 6 letters. I know they don't look like letters, but they are. And MATLAB has 12 bytes to store this content. As a summary, data types are a way of controlling memory usage. MATLAB defaults to either double or char. A double takes 8 bytes, while a char data type takes 2 bytes per letter. Now, interesting fact, last one, most languages like C, C++, Java actually require the programmer to decide ahead of time what data type a variable will be. There is no default for most languages. In this picture right here, this is C programming. If X has to be equal to 2, there is a necessary keyword in front, a data type, that the programmer has to choose. So keep in mind that MATLAB is very, very unique as far as that's concerned. It has defaults built in. The sizes of documents are usually referred to in kilo, mega, or even gigabytes. Now you have a better idea of what that means. As far as vocabulary, a bit is a single 0 or a single 1, and it stands for binary digit. A byte is 8 consecutive bits. Numerical data type versus text data type, and double and char are keywords you should be able to explain. Now replay the video if you wish, or just go see the next lesson.